Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to a special edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's been here for the entire 2022 year. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, this is a special edition of the show, as we alluded to, because it is the final week of 2022.
Yep.
And there really is not a lot of big headlines going on in the land of sports, pro wrestling, movies, TV, and comics. There's enough that would feel like, per se, a one-shot, as we like to wrap up the show with, if you're a longtime listener of the show. But we thought we'd take a dive into a few areas that we definitely want you to check out before the year is done.
Yes.
And this is going to be a fusion episode where we combine both the entertainment and sports editions into one nice podcast for you to listen to. So we definitely want to interact with you after this show as well. So make sure to swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join in the conversation on social media. All our accounts are right there on the front page. Can't make it any easier.
No.
The TeePublic store link is there, which you never know what you're going to find at that store. I'm just going to say right now, we've been selling a lot of merch lately, so thank you very much. We do appreciate when we see the brand represented out amongst the wild, so to speak. We also have the Patreon. Shout out to all our amazing patrons. A new episode just came out strictly for them. So if you want to know what we're talking about, one tier, $2 a month, and you get a lot of bonus content. Free, like I would say free of charge, but you know it really isn't. But you go that extra mile for us, we go the extra mile for you. Also, we got the directory, which has how many links, Pat?
1,227.
Sounds about right to me, so I don't argue with that at all. So if we're not on your favorite podcast provider, I don't know what else we can do for you. We give you enough ways to listen to the ODPH. It should be that simple. The classified section, which has friends of the show, such as 3FN Podcast, Parlay Points blog section. If it's anything and everything that is the ODPH, it can be found at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on social media to use the hashtag ODPHpod. Kicking off this fusion edition of the show, there is one business that is going on right now that never goes out of style during the winter months of a year.
Yeah.
And that is the business of American football, known as the National Football League. And with 2 weeks now remaining, things are getting very, very interesting.
Yeah, I was like Adam Schefter today, as we tweeted out a list, and it is quite the list of playoff scenarios for various teams. And my God, I need a spreadsheet to keep it all straight.
Yes, it is a little wild to see how everybody's falling into place for the postseason. But we have to recap the week that was in the NFL, Week 16. So, Pad, kick us off with the locks and leaps.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with one of my locks, and I chose the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Seattle Seahawks because, hey, it's Kansas City and it's at home. And the Chiefs did win by the final score of 24-10. Patrick Mahomes, 16 of 28 for 224 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Geno Smith, 25 of 40 for 215 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Kenneth Walker III, your leading rusher for Seattle, 26 carries, 107 yards, no touchdowns. Isaiah Pacheco led for Kansas City, 14 carries, 58 yards, no touchdowns. Travis Kelce, surprise to no one, led for Kansas City, 6 catches, 113 yards, and 0 touchdowns. And then DK Metcalf, again, surprise to nobody, led Seattle in receiving with 7 catches, 81 yards, and no touchdowns.
Great bounce back game for Kansas City.
Yeah.
Obviously, last week was not the best showing from this team.
To say the least.
To say the least, but they now look like they're playoff ready. I mean, Seattle is a playoff team, as crazy as that sounds, because obviously with all the changeover they've had this past off season, we weren't really expecting to see much out of Seattle. And the fact that they're a 500 team this late in the season, that's a big win. So they have nothing to really be ashamed about. But for Kansas City, they needed this win to really bounce back from a very ugly win last week, and they did. And Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes things, much better game out of him moving forward. Pacheco is definitely stepping up in that running back role, so that's something that they're going to need moving forward to really balance this team out. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. I mean, one of the best tight ends in the league, if not the best. It's debatable.
Yeah.
And you're now seeing this offense really click. The defense shut down a very, very surprising Seattle team.
Mm-hmm.
Geno Smith did not play that bad. I want to stress this. He did not really make too many mistakes. Sure, one interception, but it is what it is. But overall, I thought they played very solid. Kenneth Walker still had 100 yards on the ground running.
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to say is a cause for alarm because Kansas City is not known for their defense.
No, not these days.
Not these days. They're very well known for being the high-scoring offense juggernaut. They'll go through teams and drop 35 at will.
Yeah.
The fact they got 24 over on Seattle, I thought was a good win for them. And for Seattle's defense, I don't think that was that bad.
No.
The offense just really got stifled, and I think that was something that they really focused in on Geno Smith's weaknesses and really pressured him a lot, that he did not get a lot of time to really look down the field and see where he could get the ball.
I mean, this is a good win for Kansas City, like you said. They bounce back. Also, it's not necessarily it's a bad loss for Seattle in that it hurts their playoff chances.
Sure.
But in terms of the defense, it's not bad because, hey, this is Kansas City, who you held them to 24 points. Patrick Mahomes only 224 yards passing and only 2 touchdowns. And I can say this because I have Patrick Mahomes on one of my fantasy teams. This is a guy that, like, earlier in the year against, I want to say it was like Arizona or something like that. You know, and this is obviously Arizona's bad, but this is early in the season, so different Arizona.
Sure.
But like against Arizona or whatever it was, he dropped like 4 or 5 touchdowns in a game on him. So like the fact that you kept Kansas City to 24 points and Mahomes only had 2 touchdowns, that's a win.
Well, Seattle is a lot better than anybody was expecting. Like if there was a team that gets in the playoffs and somehow they can pull it off, they would be a team to watch for. But this is a moral win, and I think moving forward into the offseason where I think they're going to be stuck in. I mean, obviously the playoffs, I don't necessarily know if they even get in, if they're going to make a run.
Probably not.
It's just how it's going to be. But it's a great comeback story for Geno. And I think that he's going to lock up a new contract with them. Am I going to say he's going to get franchised? No, by any means. But I think that he's definitely going to get a big payday out of this. And then if Seattle decides to draft the quarterback of the future, he can sit behind him.
Yeah. Kansas City, looking at these standings, Kansas City obviously in the number 2 seed. And then over in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks currently the 8 seed.
Okay.
So we'll see where that goes. For the remaining schedules for the rest of the year, this upcoming Sunday, the Kansas City Chiefs play the Denver Broncos.
That's right.
And then on the final week of the season, they play the Las Vegas Raiders. And then for the Seattle Seahawks, this upcoming Sunday, they take on the New York Jets. That's a home game. And then for the final game of the season, they play the Los Angeles Rams at home.
So an interesting scenario for Kansas City moving forward.
Yeah.
They need to win outright because I think if they have to travel on the road anywhere, they're going to struggle to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They really are. The fact they're at home, they get a lot of interesting karma their way.
Yeah.
We'll just put it mildly. Just the outsider looking in, just my opinion, folks. Yeah. But they do play extremely well at home, but I think if they have to travel on the road, they're in trouble. And right now, they need to win outright. Buffalo is going to be the biggest challenge for them, because Buffalo holds everything in their favor. They have to win outright as well. But the game on Monday night, which the Bills have to play, that's going to be really the make or break of who's the number 1 seed going to be in the AFC.
Right.
Because Cincinnati is still making a run there as well. Like, that's a weird scenario that's happening here. For Kansas City, all they can do is control their own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
They have to win outright. Can they do it? Absolutely. Will they do it?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
And then going to one of my leaps, it was the Green Bay Packers to beat the Miami Dolphins, which they did by the final score of 26-20. Aaron Rodgers had 24-38 for 238 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Tua Tagovailoa, 16 of 25 for 310 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Raheem Mostert led for Miami in rushing with 8 carries, 45 yards, no touchdowns. A.J. Dillon led for Green Bay with 11 carries, 36 yards, 1 touchdown. Alan Lazard led Green Bay in receiving with 5 catches, 61 yards, no touchdowns. And then Jalen Waddle led Miami in receiving, 5 catches, 143 yards, 1 touchdown. Also of note, Tyreek Hill, 4 catches, 103 yards, no touchdowns.
Well, I think unfortunately the takeaway from this is Tua is now back in concussion protocol.
Uh-huh.
And he took a very, very vicious hit
Jesus.
early in that game that he never looked right after.
I can't find the stats now, but like there was I saw a thing on Twitter last night, I think, where it was his stats pre-concussion, and they were pretty damn good. It was like whatever, 200 something yards, 200 yards and change, 1 touchdown, maybe 1 interception, no interception, whatever it was, and then post-concussion, dramatically lower completion to attempts per ratio, and then like 91 or 92 yards passing, and then like the other remaining interceptions.
Yeah,
you could tell dude was not okay.
No, unfortunately not, and obviously he has had some very scary health scenarios play out this year.
Yeah,
and as much as I don't like the Miami Dolphins, I don't wish that on any player. The fact that Tua is now back in concussion protocol, I am just wishing the best.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping he comes back physically and mentally well.
Well, and what's the one thing we hear from like pro wrestlers, for example, though it's like it's not the first one you worry about, it's the next one.
Yeah, and unfortunately he has had some very scary ones this year. Like I'm not trying to dramatize it, if you will.
Yeah.
But this is a scenario where it's like he should not be playing if he's in this kind of condition. And I understand that he wasn't ruled out right after the first hit, but we're seeing this more and more where the players are kind of policing themselves, and somebody should have realized something was not right and just made that call. I understand he did not indicate really anything, but if you kind of think that something's going on, somebody should have said something, in my opinion. That's just my opinion about this, because I hate seeing this.
Well, because that's the athlete thing. You see it in all sports, hockey especially, but like baseball, in basketball or whatever, where like Derek Jeter was notorious for this, where like he could have, metaphorically speaking, he could have a busted fucking arm, and would never tell you anything's wrong and would play with a busted fucking arm. Mm-hmm. When realistically, guy should, injured, whatever got going on, should be pulled out, but they're like, no, I'm good to go. I'm good to go.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I understand that you have a lot of pride and you don't want to go out and you don't want to hear anybody say anything. But at the same time, we're talking about concussions.
Yeah.
This is not something that should be taken lightly. And if you can see a big drop-off in play like he had, this is pause for concern. Like, pull him out and really make sure he's okay. This was a scenario that I don't think they did, in my opinion. That I'm just sitting here watching. The second half, he looked awful.
Yeah.
And Tua doesn't have a drop-off like that. You don't see that with a lot of quarterbacks, that they can play perfect for 2 quarters and then just fall apart.
Yeah, I find it astounding that he was left in the game at all, especially given all the kerfuffle that was earlier this year with his first one. And I had to pull it up because the NFL's got, at least $765 million worth of reasons to be concerned about this, and I say $765 million because that was the lawsuit that was settled back in 2013 in the lawsuit with former players. So the NFL had to dole out $765 million because of this lawsuit. So you would think they would take this a little more seriously, and they have. There's certain stuff that like they've improved upon over the years, especially concerned to just in the last 5-10 years. But you still see these instances where guys are very clearly something's wrong, and then it comes out during the game or after the game. They had a concussion. It's like, well, why the fuck were they left in there?
Yeah, it's a situation where players, I think, are going to have to do more policing.
Yeah,
they're really going to have to, because we praised Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
When he did that.
Oh, and the NFL tried saying, we noticed he had a thing. So why didn't you stop the game immediately and Aguilar had to call timeout?
Exactly.
Don't give me that shit.
Exactly. You're trying to make it sound like a PR thing. No, it's like this is where we applaud players that are doing this because they're going to need to. Because as much as people want to be prideful about staying in the game and proving how tough they are and winning and going, to those great lengths.
Everybody wants their own Jordan flu game.
Exactly. But listen, there's no shame in saying, hey, something's not right.
My bell got fucking rung and I don't know what day of the week it is.
Exactly. And I will say this too. I have to call it right down the middle, to borrow a little phrase from 607 TWS.
Yeah.
I saw a lot, and I do mean a lot, of Bills Mafia on Twitter talking trash to Miami fans about Tua after this. Now, let's be clear about this. I said a lot. Bills Mafia is quite huge.
Yeah, there's a fair number of them.
And unfortunately, the negative voices kind of drowned out when Tua was originally hurt. Remember, he posted that the Bills Mafia
he
donated a lot to a foundation as well, too. This was a situation where when Bills fans were out there talking trash and saying, well, I'm going to hold up receipts for, when you're talking about Tua MVP, going after somebody when they've had a concussion like this.
Yeah.
That's poor taste.
I mean, if you want to shit talk the team just because they lost at home on Sunday against the Packers, who are not nearly as good as they have been the last 3 years, all fine, dandy. Do it as much as you want to. But where I have issue with it is when you start going after a particular player because he sucks, this, all that. Well, dude, he had a fucking concussion.
Yeah, the fact that came up,
he's not 100%.
Yeah, the fact that came up, it's like shut up. Like literally, if something happens to Josh. Trust me, you would hear a complete 180.
And considering how much Bills fans like to say, the Dolphins aren't ready for the cold. They like that warm weather too much. Were it not for the fucking blizzard starting in Buffalo when it did, or the heavy snow that started when it did the week prior, Bills might have lost that game.
Yeah. I'm not doubting that.
Because up until that point, Miami was handling themselves pretty well, I would say, all things considered, given the weather conditions and all that. The friggin' skies opened up and it started snowing, and then the Bills pulled through.
Yeah, it's a situation where Bills fans, there's a time and place to take a shot. That wasn't it.
No.
That was very poor taste. I saw that a lot, unfortunately, on Twitter. And I'm just sitting there going, you know what? You better hope nothing happens to Josh. I'm just saying this right now. Because of how he runs and how he takes some crazy hits.
Yeah.
And like I say, this is coming
leaps and hurdles everybody.
This is coming from a Bills fan numeral 1 right here. I am saying, shut up and stop taking shots like that. You can say Miami had a bad game. You can say whatever you want, but the fact that if you were going after Tua about the concussions, shut up. I don't want to hear about you.
Right.
I don't want to hear nothing. Because like I say, if it was our quarterback, it'd be a whole different story.
Oh yeah,
it'd be an entire one. So you can't use that excuse. On the flip side, though, let's get back to football because I'm just getting more angry at the nonsense I saw. Green Bay.
Yeah.
How are they doing this?
Sheer dumb luck.
Literally. Aaron Rodgers is playing well.
Yeah, he's doing all right for himself.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely trying to get the best of what he can with what he's got. I mean, Christian Watson has been a blessing on disguise here for him, so it's definitely helped him get the passing game going. Him and Lazard had a good game. I just don't know how much they're going to be able to pull it off moving forward, though.
It's going to be interesting just because, they're on the outside looking in because looking at the playoff standings, they are currently in 8th, 9th. They're in the 10th spot. They are tied with the same record as Detroit and Seattle, who are ahead of them at 9 and 8 9th spot and 8th spot respectively. So they're going to need some help and some losses and some other nonsense and BS. But I mean, they're not out of it, but they certainly didn't help themselves earlier in the year going on a 5 game losing streak.
Yeah, it's one of those scenarios that if Aaron Rodgers does sneak in somehow, they could make some noise.
They could.
I just don't think they're going to do it. I mean, obviously they need a lot of luck, and that's why I'm saying I'm giving the benefit of the doubt because crazier things have happened.
This is true.
So you never know what's going to happen. Obviously, next week will give us a very, very big picture of who's going in and who's not.
Oh, yeah.
Just with a few spots that are going to go to the final game. But for Green Bay, it was a good win. Unfortunately, though, you got to put an asterisk by it. You really do, because I think if Tua was 100%, that game would have been a lot different.
Right.
I seriously do.
Right. And looking at the schedules for the rest of the year, the Green Bay Packers have the Minnesota Vikings at home this upcoming Sunday, and then the following week they're playing the Detroit Lions at home. And then for the Miami Dolphins, they have the New England Patriots this upcoming Sunday on the road in New England. Good luck. It's going to be fucking a little chilly.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have the New York Jets to close out the year at home. And I got a couple playoff scenarios for this upcoming weekend. So the Miami Dolphins can clinch a playoff berth, keyword playoff berth, with either a win and a Jets loss or tie. Or if Miami ties, plus a Jets loss, plus a Pittsburgh loss or tie.
Well, I think they have a lot of things going in their favor. I think the Jets, unfortunately, are completely failing at the worst time.
Well, I mean, it was announced, I think, this morning, yesterday, whatever it was, Mike White cleared to play. Will start for the remainder of the season. And then he will have Joe Flacco as his backup for the remainder of the season. Zach Wilson, thanks for your services. Sounds like you're on your way out the door.
He's gone.
Come the end of the season.
He's so gone.
Which is fucking wild for considering he was drafted 2021.
Yep.
It was their first pick in the first round or whatever it was, second pick or whatever the hell it was.
He was number 2.
He was the number 2 pick. So yeah, good Lord. Wild. I can't think of another time with a quarterback that has happened.
You've only seen this happen a few times where there's a first-round bust of this level.
Sure.
Like, you've seen it with the number 1 pick here and there.
Yeah.
But I think overall, it really hasn't gone to this level where it's just completely deteriorated at this speed. That's the one thing about it. Usually you see quarterbacks really kind of struggle going into their later years, so to speak, kind of like we talk about Baker Mayfield.
Right.
Albeit, though, he's found some resurgence with L.A.
Yeah.
But he's a prime example of somebody that really came in, had a big, quick flash early, and then kind of faltered out, and is taking a while to really figure his play out.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Wilson's another one that, he's just fizzled, but he wasn't doing himself any favors in New York, and I think that the New York media, he is not built for.
Oh God, no! I don't. Listen to me. He's a career backup. The numbers and whatever were great in college, but like we've said before, the level of play compared to what any other major college in college football is a night and day difference.
Mm-hmm.
It looks great when he can throw a 70-yard bomb while rolling right and hitting a defender in the numbers when there's zero pressure on him. And by zero pressure, I mean there's no defensive backs or cornerbacks or safeties coming down looking to take his head off.
Mm-hmm.
That looks all fine and sexy if you're fucking doing a YouTube highlight, with Skrillex playing in the background.
Yeah.
But in terms of like an actual NFL game, clearly he don't have it.
No, he definitely doesn't. So for the Jets, he'll be moving forward, but it favors Miami a lot because they don't need that much to get in.
No.
Just the only thing now is how is Tua going to be ready to go?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, because if he's not ready to go, unfortunately, this team is going to fade out quick. It is what it is.
I don't even know who their backup is. I'm going to look up their backup real quick. Let's see. Depth chart for Miami Dolphins. We've got Tua Tagovailoa. Oh, good Lord. Teddy Bridgewater is their second-string quarterback.
Yeah.
And if all else fails, Skylar Thompson is their third-string quarterback.
Yeah, we saw Teddy come in briefly during the one game there.
Mm-hmm. Skylar Thompson, for those of you who don't know, a seventh-round draft pick from this previous draft from Kansas State.
Who knows? He could be the next Brock Purdy.
Hey, listen, there's only one Mr. Relevant.
This is true. This is very true. But taking a look at some of the other games here, obviously the one that had to break some Giants' hearts.
Probably.
Because I think that it's officially done for them as far as the postseason is going. I think as far as Minnesota is concerned, they still prove they are the luckiest team in the league.
You can't tell me otherwise.
There's no way you can tell me this record that they have is not accurate. I'm sorry, you can't tell me that this is an accurate statement of how good this team is.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
Pat, let's break this game down.
So the Minnesota Vikings won by the final score of 27-24. Kirk Cousins, 34 of 48 for 299 yards passing. Couldn't get that one extra yard, could you, Kirk? 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Danny Dimes, 30 of 42, 334 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Saquon Barkley, your leading rusher for the Giants, with 14 carries, 84 yards, 1 touchdown. Dalvin Cook led for Minnesota with 14 carries, 64 yards, no touchdowns. Justin Jefferson led Minnesota in receiving with 12 catches, 133 yards, 1 touchdown. And Richie James led for the Giants with 8 catches, 90 yards, and no touchdowns.
Yes, but the big takeaway from this is the Giants were defeated by a 61-yard field goal from Greg Joseph.
Yeah.
So, yet again, the narrative is Minnesota is winning these games by the skin of their teeth.
The hair on their chinny chin chin.
They are not impressing anybody with
outside of the Minnesota area.
Yeah, with what they have on this team. I'm sorry.
Paul Allen.
Kirk Cousins is not an elite quarterback.
No, he's serviceable. He's okay. You know, if you got a fantasy team on what and you need a quarterback because your starter got hurt and your other backup is absolute garbage, you know, he'll get it done for you. But is he going to lead a team through the playoffs to the Super Bowl? Probably not.
No, he's not going to be the guy. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. This team is too talented on offense to be struggling as bad as they are.
Yeah.
And Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league, the fact that he's only getting 64 yards here, is alarming because the
Trust
Giants.
me, I have him on fantasy. I know.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But the passing attack was locked and loaded there. T.J.
Yeah.
Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, both had big games. That's the only thing that's getting Kirk Cousins by here. But that defense is not doing them any favors, especially against a team that, other than Saquon Barkley, there's nobody on the Giants offense that scares you.
Nope.
Nobody.
Nope. So wait, Isaiah Hodgins doesn't scare you?
No.
Darius Slayton?
No.
Daniel Bellinger?
Who?
Put some respect on Gary Brightwell's name. One carry, -1 yards.
Oh, Jesus. That's the whole situation with the Giants is like they are just not established outside of Saquon.
No.
Danny Dimes is not the guy.
Nope.
And listen, I know I said this last week. I'll say it again. Don't even try messaging and saying that he is on the same level as Josh Allen, that Dabble just needs another year with him. He's the guy. It's just a problem with the offensive line. Like, listen, you have a lot of woes on this team.
They got a lot of work.
They have a lot of work to do. The fact that the Giants are above 500 this late in the year,
So it's a credit.
it's a big win for Dabble. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
Him and Sheen are turning this team around. So they just need time to work. But this, unfortunately, is not happening. And I think every time that you have a game like this, you're seeing that the Giants are showing flashes of brilliance,
Yeah.
but you're not seeing what they're fully capable of. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I can see him. Would it be dumb? Yes, but I can see them giving Danny Dimes another year just because, hey, he had only 1 year in Dabble's system. Give him another year, and then if it doesn't work after that year, goodbye, you're out the door. But in all honesty, they should move on from him because you've seen the skills. He's been in New York long enough, and he's been around the players long enough that there should be a repertoire and just this kind of like expectations between the players of like what the other one should do. They should know the little ins and outs and their quirks and what they're thinking and whatnot. But just clearly, it's not there. So should they get rid of him? Absolutely. After this year, absolutely. Whether it's through free agency or the draft or whatever. Get rid of the guy because he ain't it.
No, he's definitely not it, and that's something that this team needs to think about. I mean, Brian Dabble, listen, if he can make some magic happen with Mitchell Trubisky,
Yeah.
maybe that's somebody that you get as that, in-between quarterback from the next franchise. They're going to need to get somebody. And if they get Daniel Jones, if they want him to hang around for one more year, sure.
What's Matt Flynn doing these days?
No, that's a good question. I can see him winding up in East Rutherford. It's one of those situations where the Giants need a lot of work, and the fact that they show these flashes of brilliance and yet find a way to lose in these clutch games, which they could have won this one outright and really had some momentum going for them heading towards the playoffs, they just dropped the ball yet again. And Minnesota gets by with a lucky kick.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me that this team is scaring anybody going into those playoffs. They're probably going to be the number 2 seed. They're still not scaring me. Heck, they could be the number 1 seed, and they wouldn't scare me.
Right.
That is what I think of this team. They're loaded on offense, but their defense can't shut anybody down.
Uh-huh.
And luck runs out.
Yep. And you said the Giants hurt their playoff chances. Well, not so fast, my friend. From the tweets sent out by Adam Schefter, and this is for this upcoming week. So the New York Giants can clinch a playoff berth with the easiest one, a win. Win and they're in.
And who do they got?
They have I actually don't have that pulled up. It's right here. They have the Indianapolis Colts.
See, you would think that would be an easy win.
There's about 6 other scenarios though, so bear with me. So they got win and they're in. The second scenario is if they tie, Seattle loses or ties, and then if Washington loses or ties, they're in. Then there's like 5 other scenarios, but the simplest and easiest one is, hey, if they win this Sunday against the Colts, they're in. There's a one with there's another 2 where they tie, and then there's one if Seattle loses and Washington loses, they're in. There's one where if Seattle loses, Detroit loses, and Green Bay loses or ties, they're in. And then if Washington loses, Detroit loses, and Green Bay loses, they're in. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. Simplest one, though, the win and they're in.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're going to need to do. And can they do this? Anybody's guess. Not to say it's impossible.
Yeah.
But I think this is something that this team needs a lot of work if they're going to take themselves seriously this year. But if they get in, that will attract some free agents to them next year. Like, that's the big thing. But we mentioned before when everybody is already talking Super Bowl and Battle of New York and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Everybody needed to pump brakes.
Yep.
They didn't do that. Now we're in a scenario where we have to really see what this team is made of.
Yeah.
But the fact they're losing games like this,
it's not good.
It's not good. And I'm sorry if anybody's like, well, they lost to the potential number 2 seed.
a number 2 seed that could get bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is not a serious threat to anybody. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. I know I'm going to get some angry DMs from Vikings fans, but still, prove me wrong. I'm waiting on it.
Vikings have a differential, and that's the differential between their points scored and their points allowed, of +5.
Yeah.
The only team worse than them in the points differential is, I'm looking through these real quick, is the entire NFC South, because, hey, that entire division is below 0. Everybody else over +5 in terms of the division leaders.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's absolutely nothing to be scared about for them. I'm sorry.
No.
So this game, ugly game, nothing really too exciting to write about unless you're, of course, in fantasy football.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
what else can you say?
So we mentioned the Giants have the Colts this upcoming Sunday. Their final game of the season is on the road in Philly playing the Eagles. And for the Minnesota Vikings, they have the Green Bay Packers this upcoming Sunday. That's in Green Bay. And then they have the Chicago Bears the week after. That is in Chicago.
Interesting time to see what the Vikings are made of. But like I say, I am not holding any breath whatsoever.
They'll make it in the playoffs because, hey, they're a division leader. But I do not see them getting past the first round.
Yeah, definitely can't. So let's go to my leap that did not come through, and that's those Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Who had to go into Pittsburgh on a very emotional weekend.
Yeah.
Franco Harris unfortunately passed away earlier in the week. So, obviously our deepest condolences out to his family, friends, and fans all over the world. Steelers legend.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Penn State legend.
Yep. And obviously this was going to be an emotional weekend for the Steelers, and they came out to play. Vegas was ready for him. So don't get it wrong. This game was a lot better than I thought people were thinking it was going to be. But we got a lot to break down with this one, Pat.
Yeah, so the Steelers won by the final score of 13-10. Kenny Pickett, 26 of 39 for 244 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Derek Carr, 16 of 30 for 174 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Josh Jacobs led Las Vegas in rushing with 15 carries, 44 yards, no touchdowns. Najee Harris led Pittsburgh in rushing with 16 carries, 53 yards, no touchdowns. Pat Freemuth led Pittsburgh in receiving with 7 catches, 66 yards, no touchdowns. And Darren Waller led the Raiders in receiving with 4 catches, 58 yards, and no touchdowns.
Well, I think it's official, not that we had any doubt of this before. Derek Carr needs to go.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. He is not playing up to the potential. He's been given everything he can possibly need to be a successful quarterback with this team. This offense is loaded from top to bottom.
So Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Keelan Cole, Darren Waller, Renfro. And then you got that defense.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can pull up the spreadsheet I did for when we did our NFL preview segment. But I think you and I, except for Rich, had the Raiders winning the division and making it far.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing with this team. They were built to win this year. And they have not been able to pull it off.
No.
I know that mathematically they were in the playoff contention going into this, but I think unfortunately now it's basically been ruled out.
I mean, mathematically they're still in it because I'm looking at the playoff standings on ESPN.com, and so you go from 1 to the bottom, and so you've got Houston, Denver, Indy, and Cleveland are all eliminated. The next team from the bottom to the top that isn't eliminated is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, I mean, anything could happen, but I'm just sorry. From what I saw from this game, there really wasn't anything really to write home about. I mean, Vegas was up 10-3 at halftime and then gave up 10 unanswered in the fourth quarter. Kenny Pickett played solid. Didn't play exactly bad, but he didn't play great either.
I mean, it was also cold as fucking shit.
Well, that's one thing, too, is he's got to get used to that playing in the Northeast. I mean,
yeah, this is true.
This is something that if you're not built to play in snow and cold weather, this is not going to be for you. And the game
once in a generational storm.
Yeah. The game temperature was awful for this game, and obviously this is something that if you play Steelers football, you're used to this. And they did show up for this, and this was an emotional win, like we said, with Franco Harris passing away. Unfortunately,
yeah.
You knew this team was going to step up. They were going to be retiring his number at this game before the game anyway. Before his passing, I mean.
Every Pittsburgh Steelers player came walking into the the stadium. Now, normally there's guys in like various forms of clothing. Some are dressed to the nines in a nice suit and a nice tie. Mm-hmm. Some guys are wearing like a t-shirt and shorts despite the fact it's 30 below zero. Some guys are in just kind of like, nice pair of sweatpants, a nice hooded sweatshirt, a hat, something crazy. Nah, all the Pittsburgh Steelers players, Franco Harris jerseys.
Yeah. Well, that's the one thing about the Steelers culture they have. They really pay respects to their legends. And like I said, Harris's number was going to get retired.
Only the third one in team history.
Yep. And this was announced long before his passing.
Like before the season.
Yeah, so the fact that he unfortunately passed and wasn't, there, he was there in spirit, and definitely this team showed out for him. They played their hearts out for him. And this is something that if you're a Steelers fan, I applaud them. Because you know what? They really pay that much respect and gratitude towards those legends. So whenever you see somebody's coming back to the stadium, they all get up for it. They all really make a big deal. And obviously they wanted to pay tribute to Franco Harris, and they did a great job with that. You
know who also took an L for this game, besides the Raiders? The NFL Network. I realize that you got to pay the bills, and advertisements help you do that. But given the circumstances of what was going on pregame, feel like you should have shown the pregame ceremonies rather than some advertisements, because from what I was reading online, the game was on the NFL Network, and they decided to run ads instead of showing the pregame ceremony with Franco.
Really?
Harris. Yeah. Okay. So, hey, NFL Network, not a good move.
No, definitely not. They should have just kind of swallowed some dollars.
Yeah, I would. If I'm the advertising head of the NFL Network or whatever the job title would be, I'd be like, hey, listen, we're going to eat the loss in ad dollars. Hey, companies, we'll give you a pro bono ad spot somewhere else. We'll eat the cost, whatever. But we got to show this for the fans.
Absolutely. I didn't hear about that till you just said. That's awful. Yeah. No, that's bad on the NFL Network. But kudos to the Steelers organization for being one of the classiest in the league.
Absolutely. Looking at the schedules for the remainder of the year, you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers have the Baltimore Ravens this upcoming Sunday. That is in Baltimore on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, they got flexed.
Yeah, it did. And then you've got them playing the Cleveland Browns at home to close out the regular season. And then for the Las Vegas Raiders, good Lord, they play the San Francisco 49ers this upcoming Sunday. That is at home. And then they finish off the regular season at home against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm going to say this right now. I don't doubt the Raiders pulling that off against Kansas City.
Kansas City's probably going to be sitting all of their starters at that point.
Not necessarily. If that number one seed's on the line, they are going to be playing starters.
Well, that number one that number one seed could be decided this weekend. So if Buffalo wins, then Kansas City loses.
Right.
Buffalo clinches home field advantage and the AFC's lone first round bye. So if Buffalo wins and Kansas City loses this weekend, Mahomes and everybody else in Kansas City are sitting next week.
But if they both win.
True. Yeah.
See, that's the one problem that is going to be facing both the Bills and the Chiefs. Next week's Monday Night Football game is very, very crucial, and that's the Bills versus the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
And it's anybody's guess of what you're going to get out of both teams, because both teams are playing at such a high level right now. It's going to be a true test. So that being said, if it comes down to it, Kansas City is going to try resting starters, but unless they lock up that first number one overall seed in the AFC, they're not going to sit anybody. And the Raiders are going to literally be playing with house money. Because what do they have to lose? Derek Carr knows he's probably gone at the end of the season. If he wants to make a play for playing somewhere next year, this is going to be a situation he's going to have to pop up and really do something special. And the Raiders have shown that they can beat the Chiefs. They have all the tools to do it.
Well, it's funny we're talking about Derek Carr leaving. I was curious what his contract situation was. He is in the first year of a 3-year, $121.5 million deal. This according to Spotrac.com. However, right after the 2022 season, where it lists his age, base salary, and all the other pertinent financial information, there's a whole little thing. It says potential out 2023, 1 year, $25 million deal with $5.625 million in dead cap space. So he could leave.
It could happen.
Whether it's he chooses to leave or the team does it, I don't know.
Well, that's going to be the mystery of mysteries. But I'm just saying this. If I have to make a bold prediction, I am saying that he is not there next season.
I would agree with you, and I'm going to make an early prediction on where he ends up. I'll even give you two potential spots where he could land. Carolina or Atlanta.
Because who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta? They need a quarterback. And so does Carolina.
It would be a good landing spot. I mean, there's always Indianapolis.
Yeah.
For reasons.
They do have a tendency to pick, aging quarterbacks who are in the twilight of their career.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll have to wait and see ... But I think next year the Raiders might have a big shakeup.
Probably.
I don't know if Josh McDaniels will still be there at the end of the season.
I would think so.
You would think
You
so,
would think.
but there's a name that's lurking in the coaching world
Oh, yeah, I heard about this.
that allegedly, and we're taking this as strictly rumor, but it's a very noteworthy rumor,
Yeah.
that one Sean Payton is planning on making a return and has kind of lightly put together a coaching staff.
Yeah.
Now, for what team, it's debatable.
Well, there's going to be a few of them. There's one open position right now.
Right, Denver fired their coach.
Yep.
No surprise there. But what would be the incentive for Sean Payton to come to the Raiders, where you have Josh Jacobs,
Yeah.
Devontae Adams,
Yeah.
Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller,
Yeah.
and you have a very, very solid defense with Max Crosby leading it?
I mean, on paper, it's comparable to when he was in New Orleans.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I know that Denver, let's ride, has a lot more issues going on right now.
A $235 million black hole.
Yeah. So what's to say that that incentive is not there?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough because I think McDaniels has...
Arizona might be open spot at the end of the year because
Yeah.
there's rumors that Cliff Kingsbury might step down at the end of the year.
Oh, I think he's gone too.
So there's at least 3 open spots.
There's too big of a disconnect between him and the quarterback.
Oh, the quarterback needs to stop playing Call of Duty.
Right. I mean, that's the one thing with Murray.
Allegedly.
But there's such a disconnect between Murray and Kingsbury. It's,
Hashtag ODPH pod if you've seen Kyler Murray on Call of Duty this weekend.
yes. We just want to know. We don't need to know game scores.
Tell us his rank.
Yeah. But that being said, McDaniels, I think, deserves another season.
I would say so, at least one.
At least maybe a half one. I mean,
Yeah,
it was kind of
yeah.
one of the situations. I don't know if the team has dissolved that badly. I know he's made a couple calls, and I think we were screaming for his head last week. But in this kind of situation,
I was.
well, yeah. Well, I know you were,
I
but
was.
that's a different story. Not, they got by with a good lateral. But moving forward, though, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a question. I think if you got rid of McDaniels for Peyton, that's a huge upgrade.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think the Raiders have to look at that and really get the test of, what Sean Payton wants to do. Because I tell you what, he's got an offense ready to win now. He just needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
And if you see Sean Payton is coming to your team,
Oh, yeah.
you're going to try telling me if you're a quarterback that's kind of on the fence if you want to stay with your team or not, and you can have a chance to start in that offense?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. ...
So shall we go to the last leap, and then we'll take the tour around the league pad?
Sure. So the last game we're going to talk about for our locks and leaps was the San Francisco Niners taking on the Washington Commanders, where you had the 49ers emerge victorious by the final score of 37-20. Brock Purdy, Mr. Relevant, the GOAT, 15 of 22 for 234 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Taylor Heinicke, 13 of 18 for 166 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Carson Wentz also got some noteworthy time in with 12 of 16, 123 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Brian Robinson Jr. led Washington in rushing with 22 carries, 58 yards, no touchdowns. Ray McLeod III led San Francisco in rushing with 1 carry, 71 yards, no touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey was the other noteworthy rusher, 15 carries, 46 yards, 1 touchdown. George Kittle, have a fucking game, and especially for me in my fantasy semifinal game. 6 catches, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin led Washington in receiving with 4 catches, 77 yards, and 1 touchdown.
Well, the situation here is the 49ers might be the uncrowned number 1 seed in the NFC.
That's possible.
They might be. I don't think there's any way you can take it away from them. I think that they have gone out of their way to really step it up since they got Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
And then the situation after that becomes, okay, where are we going here with our quarterback situation and Brock Purdy?
Yeah.
And I think that is one that we have to just sit there and applaud, that the job that the 49ers front office has done.
Yeah.
Has made this offense into something special. And I think that it's one that if you have to face them in the playoffs, I don't like your chances because this team is finally clicking.
Mm-hmm.
Purdy is not afraid to go score some points. He's taking some chances. kind of reminds me in a weird sense of a little Aaron Rodgers. A little bit. No, I'm not saying the second coming by any means, but I'm saying it's enough that you definitely got to pay attention to him because he's playing smart. He's definitely leading this offense. He's got them clicking. The fact that George Kittle has now got a resurgence, huge.
Yeah.
And I think for what this team needs to go forward, they definitely are stepping in the right direction. As for Washington, it's a tough break, but Washington wasn't expected to do much this season anyway.
No, absolutely not.
But I will say this. I know it's been making the rounds on social media, but kudos to Ron Rivera, the head coach of the Washington Commanders.
Uh-huh.
The announcement of Jeremy Reeves as the Pro Bowl special teams starter.
Okay.
If you haven't seen the video, it just the amount of emotion pouring out and how Reeves' teammates got behind him and really were getting him excited about the game.
Nice.
I'll see if I can share the video on social media, but it was a real heartwarming moment, and I really like what Rivera has done with this team because even though they're not great, they're still playing hard for it. And that's something that I hope Rivera does get another chance with this team.
Oh, I do too.
But he needs to get some free agents in there and really do something different with that offense.
I'll say he's got a great running back in Brian Robinson Jr. He's got a great receiver in Terry McLaurin. You just get a halfway decent quarterback and then maybe a couple other lesser piece wide receivers, maybe another running back just to feature against Brian Robinson. You get some pieces on defense. You're looking pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, they could definitely make some noise in the NFC East next year. But I think for now, unfortunately, I know that they're still mathematically in the playoffs.
They need a lot of help.
They just need a lot of help.
So they can clinch a playoff berth this weekend against the Cleveland Browns. If they win, plus Seattle loses, plus Detroit loses, plus Green Bay loses or ties.
Yeah.
So they can win, just they need like 3 other scenarios to happen.
It needs to be something crazy to pull it off, but it's not to say it's unheard of. Like that's the one that's the one thing about this. And that's kind of how we're going to be wrapping up with just the locks and leaps portion. Every game on here really mattered, and everyone has either really increased their chances or really kind of signed off on them.
Yeah.
The 49ers are really making some noise of being the true number 1 seed.
Currently on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game winning streak.
Yeah, they're on fire right now.
They beat the Rams, the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Saints, the Dolphins, the Bucks, the Seahawks, the Commanders, the and that's actually the last one.
Yeah.
Oh, and they also beat, I said the Rams.
So it's one thing to get hot at the right time, and they're definitely clicking. You almost wonder if they want to just have a loss before they go in, because otherwise that's a heck of a win streak to try going into the playoffs with.
Yeah.
Not saying they would try throwing a game, mind you, but it's something that you'll start hearing the pressure of like how much they've won in a row, and that does take a toll on teams.
If they do lose next week, kind of going to be a little suspicious.
Oh?
They're playing the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I will say this: that'll probably be the most hard-hitting game of the weekend.
Probably. Currently, as we record, San Francisco is a 6-point favorite.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't really struggle with that one too much.
Yeah.
And then for Washington, well, they're in a weird position in their own right.
Yeah, so for the 49ers, I mentioned they have the Raiders this upcoming Sunday. Then they have the Arizona Cardinals to close out the regular season. That is a home game. And then for the Washington Commanders, they have the Cleveland Browns, as I mentioned, this upcoming Sunday. That is at home. And then the following week, in the last week of the regular season, they have a home game against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, so anything is possible, but I think it's not really in the cards for the Commanders.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum. So that said, Pat, let's take a quick lap around the league and sign off on this segment.
Yeah, so the Thursday night game was between the Jacksonville Jaguars, who defeated the New York Jets 19-3.
Well, I think without a shadow of the doubt, Zach Wilson is gone.
He's real bad.
He is real bad.
9 of 18, 92 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception.
And for everybody keeping track at home, Christian Kirk, 3 receptions, 22 yards.
Also had 1 carry for 4 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm. The franchise.
Yeah.
So Jacksonville gets a big win. They might win the AFC South by default.
Yeah, maybe.
For reasons.
I mean, hey, it's not the NFC South.
No, it's definitely not. The Jets, unfortunately, I think their season is a wrap.
Oh, well, it's not officially, but this does not help.
Yeah.
You had the Buffalo Bills beat the Chicago Bears 35-13.
So, great win for the Bills. Ugly start to the game.
Sure.
Because Chicago ran right down the field on them.
Which we figured they would.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they took it to them. And obviously, One thing that has been jumping out lately, and I know I haven't made a big deal about that on here, is the loss of Micah Hyde.
I've heard that mentioned a couple minutes of Bills games I've caught.
Yeah, and I think it was glaring during the opening drive of this game, and during the game too as well. Like,
sure,
him and Poyer play off each other too much. That Poyer is getting burnt on a couple coverage routes.
Okay.
That it's not clicking. Like, he's just not hearing the information coming back to him about like what the defense is, or offense is switching up at the line. Because that opening touchdown, there was nobody in sight of the receiver that caught it for him, Pettis.
Right.
Nobody was near him. So the Bills got back on track, though. Singletary, 100-yard rushing game.
Hey, finally happened.
James Cook, 99 yards rushing. So that's a big win. Offense definitely was clicking in the right direction, so big win for the Bills. Noteworthy stat, though, Nathan Peterman, 3 for 5, 25 yards.
Hey, congratulations, Buffalo. That's your first 100-yard rusher of the season.
Yes. So, like I say, Peterman makes an appearance for the Bears, throws an interception. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
We had to say that. But the Bills are sitting in the driver's seat. Obviously, big game Monday night against the Bengals, so definitely we'll be talking about that next week. Next up,
you had the New Orleans Saints beat the Cleveland Browns 17-10.
Ugly game.
Yeah.
Nothing really to write home about this one. Andy Dalton, though, gets the big win, so I'm not mad about that. And then the Browns, well, better luck next season.
Yeah. You had the Cincinnati Bengals beat the New England Patriots 22-18. Yeah, this went about the way I thought it would.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the score was as close as it was, but I'll put it to this way. I did not even keep track of the game because I'm like, yeah, they're going to lose this.
Well, the thing about the Bengals is they're arguably the hottest team in football right now.
Yes.
So you knew they were coming out. And I will say this. They understand the temp in the room. They understand they need to win outright if they want to make a deep run for the playoffs and possibly get the number one seed by whatever, weird mathematical thing they can do.
Yeah.
It could make a lot of sense, for them to just keep winning and really prove to people that they weren't a fluke last year.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots are still the Patriots. Belichick is still running that defense. So this was a good test for Burrow and company to see how they stood up. I didn't really like the Burrow stat line. Had 2 interceptions with it, but it is what it is.
Right.
Not complaining about it. And we just kind of have to see how it plays out from here. But solid win for the Bengals heading into Monday night.
I maintain Matt Patricia, got to go.
Yeah.
At least, if not go completely, go back to coaching defenses. Joe Judge, got to go. And if the rumor that I've heard at least the last 2 weeks, if Bill O'Brien might be coming back for offensive coordinator, it's better than what they fucking got.
Yeah, they need a lot of help. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Next up, you had the Carolina Panthers beat the Detroit Lions 37-23.
This hurts. This hurts bad. Because you know what? Detroit had all the momentum to somehow sneak in.
Yeah.
And I think the playoffs are out the window now. Which
they're not out yet.
They're not out yet, but I think for Dan Campbell, I'm hoping he comes back next season. I really do, because I think this team is playing so hard for him.
So they're currently the 9th seed, so there aren't any scenarios that they can clinch this weekend, but they're still in it for next weekend.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. You had the Baltimore Ravens, almost forgot the team name there, beat the Atlanta Falcons by the final score of 17-9.
Who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta?
Atlanta took a loss, 5-10.
Yeah, they did.
And the rumor is next week Lamar Jackson might be back for Sunday Night Football, so stay tuned for that.
You had the the Houston Texans beat the Tennessee Titans 19-14.
Bad loss for Tennessee.
Oh, Jesus.
Bad loss.
Jesus.
Oh, that's all we're going to say about that one.
Yeah.
No.
Next up is the Dallas Cowboys beat the Philadelphia Eagles by the final score of 40-34.
Wow. All I'm going to say about this, wow. This game was one Dallas stepped up for.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think the scenario if Jalen Hurts had played.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to take away. It's nothing against Dallas winning, because we always say division always steps up for division. So we have to take that into factor. Gardner Minshew played his ass off.
355 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Devontae Smith had 113 yards receiving. A.J. Brown had 103 yards receiving. Dallas Goedert had 67 yards receiving.
Yeah.
With Gardner Minshew throwing passes.
Yeah, so it was one of those situations where Dallas stepped up at the right time, albeit, though, if Minshew was dicing you up as bad as he was, I don't know how comfortable I would be feeling about the playoffs right now. I'm just saying, just would not be really feeling that good about it. But nevertheless, it's a good win for Dallas. and really throws a little curveball into that number 1 seed for Philly.
Yes.
Next up.
Next up is the L.A. Rams beat the Denver Broncos by the final score of 51-14.
This one hurt, Pat.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This one hurt, but do you know why it hurt? I went up against somebody I was winning in fantasy football against.
Uh-huh.
And they had one player left.
Yeah.
You know who that player was?
Oh, I'm eyeballing some stat lines. Jerry Jeudy?
No.
Oh.
Tyler Higbee.
Oh, okay. 9 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. When has he done this entire season?
Probably never.
That knocked me out of my championship game.
Hey, yikes.
I'm bitter. I'm so bitter. It's not even funny. And the only thing to take away from this game is the Broncos head coach was fired after this game.
Yep.
So obviously we heard rumblings it was going to be coming.
Yep.
This was such an embarrassing loss. And the sad thing is you're seeing that the quote unquote inmates are running the asylum when the backup quarterback is fighting the offensive line.
Yeah.
As it was shown.
Yeah.
You know that there is a problem with this team. And
there's a disconnect.
There's a big disconnect, and I think for the Broncos, they needed to do this.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question in my mind about this. I hate seeing people get fired, but this is a situation we knew it was coming.
Oh, I do too.
So, is what it is there.
Yeah. Next up, we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat the Arizona Cardinals by the final score of 19-16 in overtime.
So this game was not fun to watch.
It was kind of garbage.
It was garbage, and if it wasn't for a late fumble, real late, I sat there and said, this just looks weird to me. Just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, we go to overtime, and Tom Brady pulls off some Tom Brady magic.
Yeah.
Like I say, it looked weird to me. I couldn't get that down with it. It's it's too much of a storybook feel to it. Like I say, and I'm sure the Arizona got super excited that they were going to take one on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that they got a little overzealous and it's just a careless error. But man, it just had that storybook Hollywood feel to it.
Yeah.
I just hate that.
Although it sounds like Tampa Bay might have some bigger issues at hand, though, because in a tweet that was posted after the overtime victory, Leonard Fournette posted something and then deleted it, revealing he's dealing with a Lisfranc injury.
Oh, no.
So he said, quote, I hate when people be on here just talking, saying I'm out of shape, etc. Do y'all understand I'm playing with a Lisfranc in my foot every week, can barely push off my foot, but through the grace of God, I'm going to keep moving. Y'all wrong. # Bucks win. Close quote.
Yeah. Well,
the number of people that knew he had a Lisfranc injury, however many people work in the Buccaneers organization.
Yeah. Like I say, the Bucks just have this weird aura around them. Just my opinion. Like I said, too many things fall in their favor. My opinion.
You say, hey, the entire division sub 500.
Yeah. So is what is there, and then there was the Monday night game, if you want to call it a game.
Yeah, it was between the Chargers and the Colts, where the Colts won by the final score of 20-3, although no one's talking about that. Everyone's talking about the vicious hit that knocked the one player out during the game. Fucking Christ. Ow.
Yeah. This game was just atrocious.
It was hot garbage.
Yep. Of course, when I need Justin Herbert to score for fantasy football, he doesn't.
235, no touchdowns.
Nope. Austin Eckler, though.
Austin Eckler, where the hell are you? There you are. 18 carries, 67 yards, 2 scores.
Yep. Had to go up against somebody facing him.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was just a rough one, but the Chargers now have gotten into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which, you know what, I'm not even worried about them because of the Chargers. And if they are supposed to win, they will not win. So you're supposed to win in the playoffs, you just won't. This is how it kind of shapes up. Real crazy scenario coming out of the NFL this week, so definitely hit us up on that hashtag. Hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about Week 16 of the NFL, and how's your team shaping up with 2 weeks left? Let's discuss, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale Mai is into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
Coming back for another segment on this special edition of the ODPH podcast, and it's time to talk a little pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So one major event is happening this week in the WWE.
Yep.
That is noteworthy because otherwise it's a very, very quiet week in the major pro wrestling federations. The Indies have got a big weekend going on. AIW is doing some big things. GCW has a big weekend in Atlantic City, going New Year's Eve to New Year's Day. And New Japan Pro Wrestling is going to be having Wrestle Kingdom kickoff.
Yep.
So we were talking about that on 607 TWS. But one thing is going on this Friday that definitely caught our attention.
Yeah.
And that is the one and only John Cena is returning to the ring to keep his streak up of 20 years wrestling in the WWE.
Yeah.
How crazy of a stat is that?
That's wild to think of, especially with, he hasn't been necessarily a full-time guy in maybe about 4 or 5 years now.
Quite a few years now.
It's been a full few years, but he's still so ingrained with everything over there that you think WWE, he comes to mind and just hustle, loyalty, respect, all that. But he hasn't been full-time there or there every week or regularly in a number of years. But the fact that the streak, the new streak, is alive at 20 years of wrestling matches with WWE is wild, especially in this day and age with injuries and how long they're out and this and that. So the fact that he's been able to keep the streak going is a testament to just how healthy he is.
Well, it's one thing to know about John Cena is that since his debut in the WWE, he has been a franchise guy. Once he finally found his groove, because I know when his ruthless aggression character did not pan out.
Yeah.
And by literal chance, his Dr. of Thugonomics character evolved after making a rap on a tour bus that he was on.
Yeah.
To elevating him to superstar status and being literally the face that runs the place for WWE for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And being the franchise guy that when he finally had started to take a step back, he rolled his success into the movie industry. Now, is he on the Rock level? No.
Someday
he'll
be there someday.
He arguably will be, but the one thing about him is he definitely has taken the acting seriously.
Yeah.
And been in some very, very noteworthy movies. More importantly to the ODPH, Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he was in and Peacemaker.
Yes. So he definitely is playing a big role in the James Gunn DC universe that is being built.
Yep.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We've heard rumors of him being in other things, but we're only going to take that as rumors for now.
Yeah.
But he has also been such an ambassador for the WWE, especially with all the time and energy he gives to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And I believe that he is the record holder for the most wishes granted.
Oh, and it's not even close.
Yeah, exactly. So kudos to him for that. So the fact that he still comes back to WWE to do some wrestling here and there is truly a testament to him. And this Friday, he is going to be tagging up with Kevin Owens to take on Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns in a tag match to keep that streak going and also enhance the best storyline in all of pro wrestling, and that's Sami Zayn and the Bloodline.
Yeah.
And obviously, heading into Royal Rumble season, you're going to see WWE really kicking the high gear with Triple H and what they're doing over there as well. So it's a fun time to be a wrestling fan, and it's a fun time to acknowledge this moment happening because Cena will pop in once a year, but still, it's still memorable when he does because he's still a needle mover. He's still somebody that comes in and makes an immediate impact, even if it's for just a short appearance just to say hi.
Yeah, and you brought up the Make-A-Wish thing. I dug up the article. So this is from NPR, and this is dated September 27th of 2022. The headline is, John Cena sets a new Guinness World Record by granting 650 Make-A-Wish wishes. So the article says, John Cena has set a new record, and it didn't happen in the wrestling ring. The Guinness Book of World Records recognized the actor and WWE superstar for the most wishes granted through the Make-A-Wish Foundation, coming in at 650. So the article goes on, about him, and the statement from the Guinness World Records, which reads in part, quote, "We're thrilled to celebrate John Cena and his involvement with the Make-A-Wish Foundation." The Guinness Book of World Records told NPR in a statement. In 2015, Cena fulfilled his 500th wish. I can't say enough how cool it is to see the kids so happy and their families so happy. I truly want to show them that it's their day, he said in a video produced for WWE's YouTube channel. I just drop everything. I don't care what I'm doing. Close quote. Make-A-Wish added in a statement that John Cena is the most requested celebrity and that no one, except for Cena, has ever granted more than 200 wishes in the Foundation's history.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's not even close.
It's absolutely insane to think he's been able to pull this off with the crazy schedule that he does with his media events in WWE.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to how much he really cares about doing that cause, and salute to him. Just like, honestly, the highest amount of praise, because that is not an easy task to do.
No.
And he has been able to pull this off and really stand in a class on his own.
Yeah.
So to see him actually close out WWE's year is a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us to our other half of our pro wrestling topic here today, because on our fellow 607 podcast show, 607 TWS, the wrestling show, there is an award show that goes on.
Yep.
And it's our annual one that we run, Rich from 3FN and myself, and it is the Brodies. And to give a little background about that is in honor of the late wrestler Brodie Lee, who Rich knew personally from his time in the Indies. So when he unfortunately had passed, Rich came up with the idea about renaming the annual wrestling award show in his honor.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're going to take the time now to highlight the categories. And this year we did something kind of a little extra fun.
Yeah.
We put the voting out to you, the ODPH Society, the 3FN Nation, the wrestling community, to get involved and make your voice heard. So Pad, why don't you walk us through how to get to the ballot, and then let's start reading off the categories, and I want to hear your picks, Pad.
So to get to the ballot, all you need to do is go to odphpodcast.com. That's our website. And then without even scrolling, you can see the damn thing. But if you want to see all the categories, just scroll down just a little bit on the left-hand side underneath the ticker with what we talk about. And then the Patreon link is the link with it's a little image link to the 2022 607 TWS Brodies Award category. So what you do is you click on that, brings you to this handy dandy Google Doc where all you need to do is you put in your email and then you go through each of the categories, which I'll read off in just a second, and you submit your picks for those categories. And it gets sent to, the guys over at 607 TWS. They'll go through and then they'll read the picks on the first episode of the new year. And then the winners will be determined there.
Yes.
So some of the category, not some.
Let's break down the categories, because Pat, like I said, I want to get your picks here, because you can kind of guide people on like maybe some ideas, in case they're thinking, because there's been a lot of great pro wrestling this year.
And this doesn't have to be limited to WWE, AEW, Impact, New Japan, GCW. This can be anything. You can have a local fed that, like, if the match is online, you can say, hey, I saw this person versus that person, on this, man. It was a great fucking match.
Mm-hmm. You can definitely do that. So let's start from the bottom on the form, because that is the first category is Breakout Superstar of the Year.
I'm going to say Logan Paul.
Really? Okay.
Just because there have been other good ones during the year, but just the fact that he's had 2 matches this year, his first 2 matches in professional wrestling that we know of. He might have had some backyard stuff or whatever, but like in terms of televised wrestling, he's had 2 matches this year. He had the one at WrestleMania with The Miz, and then he had the one at SummerSlam, which the fact that he was as good as he is astounding to me. I think everybody has the potential to do it. It's just how much you want to commit to it and how much time you want to put into it, and just, what avenues you have to access, teachers and knowledge and what have you, that certainly affects it. But the fact that he was able to put on such great match. Now, I'm not going to say they're the greatest matches of all time. My God, 100 stars, even if it's not in the Tokyo Dome. But like, they're really fucking good matches, all things considered.
Yeah, absolutely. Breakout Star of the Year can go for anybody that's really had the breakout moment this year and really stepped their game up and really elevated themselves from where they were last year to this year. And my pick is, unfortunately, not with the company right now. Mm-hmm. But my pick was Mandy Rose.
Oh!
And what I mean by this is when she was sent back to NXT, there was a lot of confusion about what was going on, because obviously this is the start of NXT 2.0.
Yep.
And then she won the world title down there. And since that point, she has elevated her game in the ring to where, prior to the whole fan time drama that has expired, she was on the way to becoming a main eventer on the main roster when she returned. And I fully think that we were expecting to see her night after WrestleMania.
Probably.
So I'm going to say, for the body of work that happened in the ring, I thought that she definitely had the Breakout Star of the Year award locked up. But that's just our picks about this. See, that's why you can go hit on the forum and choose your pick. Who do you think really stood out this year? Who do you think really made a dent in the pro wrestling community's eyes about their work in the ring?
Yeah.
So that's always an interesting one. Pat, what's up next?
Next up is the WTF moment of the year, and this necessarily this is kind of like a wide-ranging category because this is just a moment or something that happened in the pro wrestling world that made you go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And for me, it was a shocked what the fuck. It was the whole Vince McMahon story, just because I was convinced, much in the same way, with the Joe Paterno story. Like, I thought when Joe Paterno was coaching Penn State, I thought he wouldn't retire until he died. And Vince, I thought the same thing. I thought he wouldn't let go of that company until we woke up one morning and it was trending on Twitter that he had passed away. So the fact that everything went down with what it did this past summer and that it led to him, and all the tongue-in-cheek appearances on Raw and SmackDown during the kind of like once everything broke from the Wall Street Journal about the hush payments and what have you, to him appearing on tongue-in-cheek on SmackDown and Raw, basically like, I'm not going anywhere. We're now forever in family, all that stuff. I genuinely had no idea what was going on, and I was just sitting there going, what the actual fuck is happening? And to get to the point where he stepped down and was no longer CEO and in control of the company, that to me was genuinely the what the fuck. I never thought I'd see this.
Yeah, I could definitely be in contention for this year's one. I'm going to throw you this one now. Best moment of the year. So what moment in the WWE, AEW, NXT, GCW, what moment in pro wrestling stood out to you as saying this was 2022?
For me, it's a tie, and they're both from WrestleMania, between Stone Cold coming back. Because, like I've said before, I didn't get into pro wrestling until WrestleMania 30. I knew who Stone Cold was. How the hell could you not in the 90s? But my parents didn't let me watch wrestling, so I never got to see any of his stuff live. I've seen some of it now, going back through the pay-per-views on the Peacock and what have you. But to see Stone Cold come back after so many years and all the injuries and whatnot, and have a great match, all things considered, and obviously the dance partner helps, but Stone Cold put on a hell of a match. So that's like a 1A. The 1B for me is Cody coming back to WWE, just because I never even entertained the idea of him switching companies, despite all the backstage politics and all the backstage nonsense. Cody coming back to me was an incredible moment, just because I'll always have the memory of him coming back and going, oh my God, it's true. But then just the buildup of the rumors and the speculation and watching Raw, despite it being bad at that point, and tuning in at the open, tuning in at 9, tuning in at 10:30, just to see if he'd make an appearance, or there'd be a reference or a hint as to what was going on. So for me, it's kind of a tie.
That's fair. Next up, we're going to the tag team match of the year. Like, we actually, at 607 TWS, give a lot of focus to tag team wrestling.
Yeah.
So we always say, okay, what's the match of the year? And then what's the tag team of the year? So, Pat, for you, what is your tag team match of the year?
Boy, what do you think?
See, this year was very tough.
Yeah, it is.
Because there's a lot going on in all the federations for the most part. You have to give a lot of consideration to Ring of Honor / AEW for the Briscoes versus FTR.
Yeah.
You have to take a look at FTR versus Aussie Open, which was over not in the United States, which that one garnered so much internet buzz it wasn't even funny. You have to take a look, too, at the Usos and what they've done this year. And obviously, there's been a strong contender, which came in late, of the New Day and Pretty Deadly from NXT. So you kind of have to really sit back and kind of think, okay, which one stands out to you? And like for me, there's so many of them. I still haven't made my vote yet. Yeah. Like that's where it is. But I will say this, in tag teams wrestling, there's been so many great matches that you have to just acknowledge that.
For me, it's hard to pick one, but if I had to pick one, I'd have to go with the Brawling Brutes taking on Imperium at Extreme Rules. That was the good old-fashioned Donnybrook match.
That was good.
Fucking Christ. I had no idea what to expect with this, just because I'd never seen an old-fashioned Donnybrook match. I want to see more.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit, that was awesome.
And then the next category up is Tag Team of the Year.
Listen, I mean, you got to give it to the ones I'm skewing very heavily here because my views on AEW are noted. But no disrespect to any of the other teams, but you got to give it to the ones who've been down since day one ish. That just they broke the record for the longest held tag team reign in WWE history. Usos, just the body work. I cannot think of with this whole bloodline run a bad match they've had. Not all the varying degrees of good, but like they've all been good. I can't think of an Usos match where I went, yeah, that wasn't that good. With this current run they've been doing.
Yeah, I think you have to take a look. You have to take a real hard look at the Usos. You got to take a look at FTR and what they've done in AEW. Well, I shouldn't say AEW. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But what you've seen, what they've done in New Japan and Ring of Honor, where they've really had the standout moments, and AAA as well. Like they have definitely made their landscape known throughout 2022. Mm-hmm. And then you also have to think some other teams too. The Briscoes had a great year. The GCW tag team scene has been on fire as well. And, you have to even give a shout out to a degree to the Acclaimed in AEW. Like they have been gaining some votes. I'm just going to put that out there as well too. So that's the one thing with tag team wrestling. It's tough to nail down, but I'm sure if you really sit back and think about it, there's a few teams that are really standing out that are really going to cause a lot of interest when it comes time to get the award this year for Tag Team of the Year. Next category up, though,
is Female Wrestler of the Year. And much like you had for Breakout Star of the Year, I'm putting Mandy Rose in the Female Wrestler of the Year. Just because I think the body of work she put on, and especially reinventing herself from what she was when she debuted on the main roster. Because if I remember right, I don't think she was in NXT for very long, if at all. Her initial run. Hashtag ODPH pod. Correct us.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that too.
But the fact that, from where she came on the main roster and just how they were booking her and presenting her to going back to NXT, reinventing herself, because it wasn't necessarily a full revamp of like changing the look and the face and the gimmick and the this and that. It was still more of the same, but it was just with kind of a sharper edge to it, and I think it paid dividends for her. It made some great work. It made me actually want to watch her matches. I mean, prior to that, I really, Mandy Rose came on. I'll be honest, I was going up to get a snack or run into the bathroom. I just didn't care. But Mandy Rose came on with NXT and had that run, especially with Toxic Attraction, must-see TV.
Oh, absolutely. No, there's so many qualified contenders for this. I mean, it's still anybody's guess of who's going to come out with the belt, or the award this year, I should say, for that.
Yeah.
Next up, though, is Male Wrestler of the Year.
I mean, listen, there's only one choice for this, and I am acknowledging the Tribal Chief, and that is Roman Reigns. Just because, again, he hasn't worked every show this year. He hasn't worked all the pay-per-views this year, but just the body of work he's put on has been awesome, and much in the same way of the Usos. Have I watched a Roman match and going, that was fucking awful? No. Every match I've seen with Roman in it this year has been phenomenal.
Well, you have to think back to this year. He has definitely taken this whole bloodline storyline and raised it up a couple levels.
Yeah.
Albeit, though, it did get a nice shot of adrenaline via Sami Zayn's involvement, and he's definitely stepped his game up there as well. Roman is definitely one of the candidates you have to keep an eye out for, but there's so many, too, from New Japan and GCW that it really is going to get thrown in the mix. Literally, it's still going to be anybody's pick, though, for who's going to come away with this year's Brodie.
Yeah.
Next up is the event/wrestling card of the year. So was there a pay-per-view? Was there a whole show from top to bottom that stood out to you that you go, man, that was a card?
All out this year. No, I'm kidding.
Wow. Wow.
No, I'm going to say SummerSlam from this year, just because, and again, my picks are going to skew heavy WWE. That's what I watch. No, I'm going to say SummerSlam just because SummerSlam is already one of the better cards they put on year in and year out. But the added intrigue and interest with this was this was the first pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever you want to call it, in 40 plus years, whatever it ends up being, without Vince McMahon running things. Mm-hmm. And the interest and the intrigue as to what the hell was going to happen and what was this going to look like was through the roof. I remember, because this took place on July 30th, I was out someplace with my girlfriend Liz. I was like, hey, I want to watch SummerSlam tonight. I was like, normally I would, because it was on a Saturday. I was like, normally I wouldn't care, and I just watched till Sunday. But I'm like, given everything that's been going on the last couple of months, I got a lot of interest in what's going to happen with this. So we made sure to get back in time for the start of this, and it wasted no time, with just how crazy it was going to be and just what we were on pace for, because you opened up with Bianca Belair taking on Becky Lynch for the Raw Women's Championship. Mm-hmm. And you had Bianca retain. But then from the outset, so this is after the intros and all this other stuff, but you have Bailey come back after a year, and then Dakota Kai, who was, to what we knew at the time, was a free agent, wasn't necessarily going anywhere, and Io Shirai, whose contractual status was up in the air. But so you go from that great match to, hey, we're bringing back Bailey, and she's bringing in Dakota Kai and Io Shirai, Io Sky now, but Io Shirai. Then you have the match with Logan Paul and The Miz and Bobby Lashley in Theory, which was not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it was pretty good. You had the Mysterios taking on the Judgment Day, which was fun to watch. Pat McAfee taking on Happy Corbin. And McAfee, and if you haven't heard his story about this matchup, dig up the clip from his YouTube show from August. He talked about it and how extensively he worked on it. You had the Usos taking on the Street Profits in a great match. With Jeff Jarrett as the special guest referee. Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey, with Liv defeating Ronda, which I don't think anybody saw coming.
Yeah.
And then just the batshit insanity that was Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. With Brock coming in on a tractor and then standing in the thing while the digging part of the tractor is up in the air. And then towards the end of the match, lifting the ring up in the air and spilling Roman and the ref out into the timekeeper's area.
Yeah.
Like that card just top to bottom was insane.
Yeah, that is one that definitely sticks out to me. I mean, there's so many good ones too. That's really it's going to be tough to determine a winner out of this one. But wrestling in a whole was really just stepping its game up all over the place. So it's definitely a lot to be excited about. And it all comes down to the next category too, Pat.
Yeah. That is Promotion of the Year. And listen, it's no surprise. I'm going to give it to WWE. It's no disrespect to the other folks, but I think you just look at where they came from. And let's face it, they had not been good the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. They've been taking steps back and sliding a little bit and stumbling. But you just look at from everything of where they started to where they ended, it has become must-watch TV. I've all of a sudden, because the last couple of years, I wouldn't necessarily watch. I'd tune in at 8 o'clock. When the show started, just to see that opening segment, come back at 9 o'clock just because I think that's when something big might happen, and then and then watch the main event. And all the in-between stuff I'd catch on YouTube. Once you had the Triple H takeover and after SummerSlam, because during that time I'd play video games, I'd watch a movie, I'd watch a show, whatever else, but I'd keep a passive eye on it. Once Triple H took over and started running the show and booking and all this other stuff, I put everything else to the side and I make sure I'm on my couch in front of my TV on Monday nights.
Yeah, this one is going to be, I will say, probably the most contested one that we do this year for the Brodies. I really do. It's nothing against the other promotions, but I think this one is really going to be the one that is garnering the most different answers. Because I think wrestling in a whole, like we kind of alluded to a little bit, had so many companies really step up. And WWE is one that definitely had a really good year. But there's a lot of indies, too, that really stepped their game up as well, too. And I'm not saying it's going to be a lock or leap, but I think that you're going to see this one be arguably the most highly contested one of the year.
Yeah.
So that said, the prestigious award of the year, the one that really solidifies the Brodies, is up next. And that is Match of the Year. Pad, what was your match of 2022?
I'm going to look back to Clash at the Castle, which took place in Cardiff, Wales, at Principality Stadium over in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom's first pay-per-view in like 30 some odd years, whatever it was. And I'm going to look at Gunther, who took on Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship. And, this is where the whole banger after banger after banger started, because I'll be honest, in my time watching wrestling, I've never cared for Sheamus. He's a good worker. Don't get me wrong. I've seen him in person. That man is also tall as fuck.
Yeah.
For a human being, like, I get most wrestlers are tall. No, Sheamus is on a whole different other level of tall. So I've respected him, and like but I've just never cared for the whole thing. I like the Sheamus and Cesaro thing, when they were tagging, just because they became such a good tag team. But in his singles stuff, I just never cared. So when he came to this matchup with Gunther, obviously with Imperium and ringside and then the Brawling Brutes there, I was like, yeah, I honestly, my expectations for this match were real low. I was like, I'll watch it, but like, I'm probably not going to come out of it thinking that much of it. It'll be what it is. Christ almighty, that was a phenomenal match. Incredible from start to finish.
Yeah, that one definitely stands out too. There is a lot to choose from this year too. I think there's a lot of very, very strong work that not necessarily is all in WWE, but I think, though, you're going to see a lot that are going to be coming out in the post-Triple H era that I think are definitely going to stand out. I think you're going to see some AEW matches pop in. I think for matches, not storylines and anything else. And I know to already disclaim to the CM Punk versus Young Bucks backstage brawl is not eligible for match of the year, but I think that will garner some votes.
I'm going to fucking put that in just because.
I'm waiting for you to, because you can easily do this in more ways than one. You can go over to odphpodcast.com, enter in the ballot right there, like Pat told you at the beginning of the segment. You just have to click on the image, and it'll take you right to the form. You can do it. Or Pat is actually putting this in the liner notes of the podcast. So if you want to make your vote heard, we want to make sure it's all tallied up by midnight of December 29th. So we have enough time to tally everybody's votes and get that all together. This is the perfect time to do it. So all you got to do is just click, fill it in, and submit. It's that simple. And then make sure to join 607 TWS, Rich and myself, on January's first episode and hear the results of who has taken home the most prestigious award in all of independent podcast pro wrestling. That said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about John Cena returning for one more match to keep that streak of 20 years of John Cena and WWE going? And then make sure to submit your votes for the Brodies this year. It's going to be a fun time, and you definitely want to make sure your voice is heard if you're talking pro wrestling with us here at the ODPH and 607 podcast. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, and welcome to The Capsule Life, a show for the most casual and dedicated fans of comics and a member of the Comic Watch family. I'm your host, Sean. Join me and discover what the world of comics and graphic novels have to offer. From one-on-one interviews with industry professionals, roundtable discussions with passionate fans, and reviews on the latest comics, TV shows, and movies. You can also check out our website, www.thecaptionlife.com, to find out where you can listen to us, a list of all of our episodes, and where you can find us on social media under the username @CaptionLife. You'll get a new episode from us every week, so hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pat, what you got?
Got just one thing to talk about. Like we said, it's been quiet in sports and entertainment this week, so I got to talk some local minute. Looking at the standings for the Federal Prospects Hockey League, that, of course, is the league that our local Binghamton Black Bears play in, and specifically at the Empire Division, where the Binghamton Black Bears still sit in second place behind Danbury. Danbury with a record of 17 wins, 1 loss, 2 losses in either overtime or shootout. And then you've got the Black Bears in second place with a record of 14 wins, 5 losses, and then 2 losses in either losses, 2 losses in either overtime or shootouts, doing very well for themselves. Looking at the past week's game, well, they didn't play the game on Friday because it was freeze your ass off cold here in the Northeast. In case you are from one of the lucky ones who weren't here, at one point I looked at my phone on Thursday night. Now this is in Fahrenheit. You can convert it to whatever it is for Celsius and then whatever it is for Kelvin. But at one point in Fahrenheit, Thursday night, it was -1. Without like the wind chill or anything else, just the normal temperature was -1. The feels like was at -21. And it was so cold that the washer fluid in the line in my car froze for 2 days. So that was fun.
Yeah.
So much for the washer fluid being good up to -30. Yeah. So the game they were supposed to play this past Friday against the Watertown Wolves at home did not take place because of the fear of inclement weather. So reading from an article on BinghamtonBlackBears.com, it reads, quote, Friday night's contest against the Watertown Wolves has been postponed. A makeup date will be announced at a later time. The Black Bears will be offering a ticket exchange for our December 31st game for all tickets purchased through the Binghamton Black Bears office, close quote. So if you were one of those folks here in the 607 area who had purchased a ticket for their game on this past Friday, December 23rd, and obviously weren't able to make it because of the weather, you will, I'm sure if you call their office down at the arena, or you go to BinghamtonBlackBears.com and reach out to them via email or social media, they'll be able to help you work out how to get a new ticket for this upcoming game because they're scheduled this week. They've got a game on Friday, December 30th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That is on the road against the Watertown Wolves. And then they return home Saturday, as we mentioned, for a game on December 31st. Gotta note, though, this is a special start time, probably because it's New Year's Eve and all the festivities downtown. Start time of 5 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
So if you show up at 7:30, you're probably coming in at about the third period, and the game's almost over.
Yeah.
So that is against the Watertown Wolves. If you're not able to make that game, however, don't worry. They'll be home next weekend for a double home game weekend the following weekend. So for more tickets, information, all that good stuff, BinghamtonBlackBears.com.
So due to when we were recording this, I can't go into full breakdowns of the books that we're going to be talking about on Parlay Points this week because of embargo reasons. But the books I'm reading out, you should definitely have on your pull list, and definitely make sure you don't leave your comic shops or Comixology without purchasing them, because there are some fantastic books coming out this week. Kicking off my list from Boom Studios, Once Upon a Time at the End of the World #2. This is a very, very creative tale by Jason Aaron and Alexandre Tenefeki. I apologize if I butchered the last name. And this one is a book that has just gone in such a crazy direction. The first issue came out, really set up this pace for this unique post-apocalyptic story. And where it's going to go from here is going to be something special. So you definitely want to make sure you check that one out. Also, from Boom Studios. Boom has a huge week this week, Pat. Huge.
Okay.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Hey.
First issue comes out. All I really need to say about this is Ryan Parrott, Dan Mora.
Okay.
If I need to say anything else, I don't really know what I can do to say this should be a no-brainer, that you should be picking this book up, and we'll have plenty to discuss about this next week. Ryan Parrott's doing some great work. Hoping to get him on the podcast very, very soon.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Stay tuned, ... Got a lot to talk to him about between this book and Rogue Sun, and some football too as well. So you never know. Just stay tuned to the ODPH for that. Like I said, Boom Studios, big week. There is a spin-off from Something is Killing the Children.
Okay.
So the amazing book by James Tynan and Werther Dell'Orta has spawned off into House of Slaughter, which was a great companion book as well. This is a one-shot called Book of Slaughter, and this really is going to be something that Something is Killing the Children fans are going to definitely want to check out. It's got a lot of cool things in it that you definitely don't want to miss, and for me, it was such a great companion piece because, like I said, I love the two books that are out right now, and this is just like the cherry on the sundae for perfection for me.
Nice.
So I really dig that. Also from Boom Studios 2, Damn Them All, #3, Simon Spurrier, Charles Adlard. Listen, this book is just getting wilder and wilder, and it came off, the first issue was absolutely explosive. The second one is right there. Third one, you definitely don't want to miss as well. So, Boom, like I said, solid week, and then this is only, like I say, just the picks we're really hyping up about. They got just a stacked lineup, period. Also, from Valiant Entertainment, Valiant is dropping off Bloodshot Unleashed #4. Dennis Camp, fill-in art duty, though. John Davis Hunt is not on this. This is Eric Zawicki.
Okay.
So they're filling in. This looks like it might be the last issue for a while, obviously, with how Valiant has been rotating their books going once a month.
Right.
So this is going to be the final issue for now for the Bloodshot Unleashed series. But I'll tell you what, this has been the definitive voice of Bloodshot. Dennis Camp has captured it and really made it such a fascinating character. The fact that this hasn't been mature readers before, I think, has been a disservice to the character, in my opinion. And it's nothing against the great, because there's been great Valiant stories with Bloodshot 2, but I think now making it mature readers and really letting Camp go off in some really wild directions with the character, I think has just been nothing but box office. And it's something I really love. So like I say, you can't go wrong with that. And speaking of Dennis Camp 2, the Image Comics pick of the week, 20th Century Men #5. Listen, this whole story is just completely intense, in your face, doesn't hold anything back, and very, very imaginative. What he's doing with Esmeran has been just absolutely wild. So if you really want to get something different in your hands or your digital screens, definitely check this book out. A lot of stuff going on with that with Image Comics. And like we always say, make sure you're going out supporting your local comic shops and your digital stores too, but make sure the LCS too, especially this holiday season. If you have a pull list, go pick it up, purchase everything, and make sure to clear it out for 2023. That's all I'm going to say with that. But before we sign out, there is another award show going on too that has generated quite the social media buzz amongst comic book fans and creators. Mm-hmm. And Pat, what is that award?
That is the 4th annual Cheersies Awards.
Yes. So the annual award show that I co-host with Brian Wayne from Cheers to Comics podcast is back, and I feel like I'm underselling when I say bigger than ever, but it really is. We have done something a little different here. We've kind of really opened up the fan voting, kind of taken it away from Twitter and really presenting it to the fans in every single medium. And the turnout for the votes has been insane. I'm not pulling anything. I'm not trying to oversell this. The response has been huge. The response from creators has been very, very huge. Rom V has reshared this. We've seen Tom Taylor reshare this, Melissa Flores. You are seeing a lot of the big names in comics really talk about this. And for Brian and me, this is absolutely mind-blowing to us. Super excited to get to the award show next week, January 4th, on Facebook and YouTube and in podcast form. We're even going to be resharing the episode here on the ODPH Podcast Network just because the episode is going to be that much fire. And I cannot wait to get into it because we love doing this show. Like Brian and I have been doing this now for 4 years, and we're pretty much going to do this as long as we're both in podcasting. And it is always a blast. It's a long episode, so you definitely want to make sure if you're watching live, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Pacific. If you're on the East Coast like me, make sure you have your coffee ready. I will have mine ready to go. But we're going to go through and give Pad's picks for the awards, and it's done the same way. Go to where, Pad, to vote?
You go to odphpodcast.com, and right next to the link for the Brodies Awards, there is a image link to the Cheersies Awards, which takes you to a Google Doc. You fill out your email, and then you make your picks, and then you submit them. Also, in the show notes of this episode, there will be a link to the said Google Doc.
Yes. So that said, we have the picks open, and like I say, we actually gave the write-in option along with the ones Brian and I nominated.
Right.
So if you're like, wait, this book should be on here, or this creator should be, write it in. We're welcome to anybody writing it in, and obviously we're tallying up the votes. And like we said, the turnout has been crazy too. Like I say, you see some of the nominations up here for the comics. It compares nothing to the actual ones that we have gotten in. Like the hundreds and hundreds that have come in. It's been absolutely wild. So you definitely want to make sure you're getting your voice heard for this. And like I said, don't hesitate to write something in too. So, Pat, that being said, let's kick off the category, shall we?
Yeah, so the first one on the list is the best horror comic, and the ones you guys have nominated is from Image Comics' Dark Ride. Also from Image Comics, Silver Coin. From Image Comics, I Hate This Place. From Image Comics, The Closet. And then from Comixology Originals / Dark Horse Comics, Night of the Ghoul.
Yes, this is a very, very stacked lineup. This one has been very polarizing, too, because a lot of people are writing in a lot of different books, and the votes have been swinging back and forth for who's taking it right now.
Okay.
So don't want to spoil anything right now. You probably have an idea if you know me well where I voted, but it's not to say it's fully locked in. I'm just putting that out there right now.
Okay. Next up is the best, and I'm not picking anything because I don't read horror comics.
Yeah, Pat has to abstain.
Next category is the best new character. From Marvel Ghost Rider, you have Exhaust. From Marvel Spider-Man, Chasm. Also from Marvel Spider-Man, Gold Goblin. From Marvel Venom, you have Bedlam. From Marvel Daughter of the Blade, Bloodline. From Image Comics, The Dead Lucky, you have Bibiana Lopez Yang. From Image Comics Rogue Sun, Dylan Seigel. And then from Boom Studios Grimm, you have Jessica Harrow.
This one was one of the hardest ones Brian and I were going back and forth about because this year in comics there has been so many great series and so many great new characters coming out. The votes have been swaying very back and forth about this.
Okay.
And I will say this, Massiverse has been showing up big, but it's not to say it's locked up just yet. There is one character on here, and I'm not going to spoil it, that has gotten a surge as of late and is currently in the lead as we are recording. But it's not to say it's fully locked in. But if you really want to get your voice heard, this is definitely one that will have fans talking. We got a lot to talk about. Pat, do you have any feelings here?
Let's say Gold Goblin. I like a new Goblin.
Okay, fair enough. Next up
is a best speculation book, and the nominees are 8 Billion Genies from Image Comics, Black Panther #3 from Marvel Comics, Edge of Spider-Verse from Marvel, Venom #5 from Marvel, Amazing Spider-Man #13 from Marvel, Amazing Spider-Man #93 from Marvel, Axe Free Comic Book Day Special from Marvel, Miles Morales #38 from Marvel, Death of Doctor Strange from Marvel, Night of the Ghoul from Comixology / Dark Horse Comics, and then Supermassive #1 from Image Comics.
So the speculation book is this is going to be something for collectors. This is something that's going to make a lot of noise, and it's out and definitely set up a lot of things coming out. There's a certain amount of hype behind it. Listen, any of these nominees definitely fit the bill for it. I'm just going to put it out there. It's a stacked lineup, and even more came in, too.
I'm going to say Death of Doctor Strange, just because anytime Marvel kills one of their big Avengers-level characters, it's always a big deal.
Okay.
Next up is Best Publisher, and the nominees are Boom Studios, Image Comics, Source Point Press, Dark Horse Comics, Comixology Originals, and Marvel Comics.
Man, this is a tough one. This one definitely has got a lot of votes in, and I think it's pretty much equal as of right now across the board, if memory serves me right. So definitely a lot of fans are making votes. And I will say this has been a very strong year for the nominees that each went up here. Like, I could see each one winning this. And the one thing that I will stress, too, is Comixology Originals. That is one that if you're not reading digitally, I always scream on here left and right. We do a lot of reviews for them, and the books have been fantastic. So if you're not familiar, this is a time to get caught up and then make your vote after. And, like I say, but anyone on this list right now has been killing it this year. So, this is one, whoever comes away with the Cheersy has definitely earned this one, hands down.
I'm going to say Marvel.
Okay.
Next up is Best Star Wars Series.
Oh, this is you, Pad.
Yeah. So the nominees are The Mandalorian, the mainline Star Wars series, the Darth Vader series, the Bounty Hunters series, Dr. Aphra, and then Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Talk to me.
Wait, listen, it's whatever one Charles Soule is doing, because Charles Soule can do no wrong in Star Wars. I'm going to have to say probably Vader. Vader's just been phenomenal from start to finish, top to bottom. That's no disrespect to the other ones. The other ones are all phenomenal. Like, now is one of the best times for Star Wars comics I've seen in years. Mm-hmm. But no, just the Darth Vader stuff has been so good.
Fair enough.
Next up is the best cover art, and the nominations are Iron Man #23 with the artwork done by Alex Ross, Iron Man #22D from Bjorn Barends, Amazing Spider-Man #93D from Patrick Gleason, and then Immortal X-Men #4 from Mark Brooks, and then Miles Morales #1 from Mike Del Mundo.
And if you're wondering, too, about what these covers look like, the nominees, Brian actually put the graphics right above them. So you can see which ones are nominated. However, there's a lot that have been written into as well. So want to stress this one. So, Pat, what you got?
I'm going to say probably the Alex Ross Iron Man one. Listen, Alex Ross, you can do no wrong with.
Fair enough, man. No arguments here.
Next up is the Best Indie Series, and the nominees for this one are 8 Billion Genies from Image Comics, 3 Keys from Image Comics, Grimm from Boom Studios, The Dead Lucky from Image Comics, Twig from Image Comics, Rogue Sun from Image Comics, House of Slaughter from Boom Studios, Do a Powerbomb from Image Comics, and then Night of the Ghoul from Comixology / Dark Horse Comics.
Man, this is a loaded series. The indies are absolutely killing it this year. I'm abstaining announcing my vote until we get to the show.
I'm going to say Rogue Sun.
Okay. Well, you know Ryan Parrott well?
I do. Next up is Best DC Miniseries. The nominees are Poison Ivy, DC vs. Vampires, Dark Knights of Steel, and then The Human Target.
Yeah, this one, like I said, people were asking why we only had so many nominees, and it's like, miniseries are tough for us.
Yeah.
But this is why we offer the write-in vote, and there have been some write-ins too. This one, though, there's 2 that jump out at me, but I don't want to sway anybody's vote. So, Pat, what you got for this?
I'm going to say DC vs. Vampires.
Okay.
A little dark horse, a little weird, but hey, it's interesting.
Okay, fair enough.
Next is Best DC Comics Ongoing. The nominees are Nightwing, Batman / Superman, World's Finest, Batman, Detective Comics, and then Superman, Son of Kal-El.
Great year for DC.
Yeah.
Great year. This is tough. This is really, really tough. I'm going to defer to you. What do you got for this one?
I'm going to say Nightwing. Nightwing has just been phenomenal from them, top to bottom, start to finish, everything else.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I can't argue with you. Whoever is coming out with the Cheersies for DC is definitely high praise, because all 5 of these books, at least, because like I said, the write-ins too are there, have all been killing it this year. Like DC, say what you will about what's going on with the movies and TV shows, comics-wise, been really doing some cool things, and I'm already going to give like a little preview for next year. Superman is lined up for a big year.
Okay.
Huge year.
Next up is the Best Marvel miniseries. And the nominees are Edge of Spider-Verse, Dark Ages, Spider-Punk, Midnight Suns, and then Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood.
This one, great category. Marvel's been doing a lot of great work on their comics line. This one swings very back and forth between 3 so far. But the other books have been getting votes in too. So like I want to say, when I'm saying it's swing, it seems like there's a bunch that come in one day for one book, and then the next day there's a bunch that come in for another one. So the winner is not clear-cut just yet from this one. But there's 3 that have been really jumping out that the fans have been DMing. And listen, you can tell me your fandoms for it. Like, I'm cool with this, but it's not going to sway my vote. The vote is to the public. So listen, just make sure your voice is heard, and make sure you're sharing the ballot on social media, and let people know what you voted too, because it's honestly, we're going to hear a lot of feedback from this category as well.
Oh, yeah. And then next up is the Best Marvel Comics Series Ongoing. The nominees are Venom, Wolverine, Darth Vader, Ghost Rider, Carnage, Hulk, Thor, and Savage Avengers.
Man, stacked lineup from Marvel. Very stacked. No clear-cut winner here.
Not surprising.
Like, no, Marvel's got such a stacked lineup here. It's absolutely crazy. Next up, though, we go through the creative teams. Mm-hmm. And obviously this one, if you made the list here, you've definitely earned your spot for the nominations. Wide open races here too as well.
Yeah, that is the Best Letterer series, and for this nomination, for these nominees, you have Tom, and I apologize, I'm going to butcher some of these names. Tom Napolitano from Grimm, Chris Crank, who worked on 8 Billion Genies, Wes Abbott, who worked on Nightwing, Travis Lanham, who worked on Ghost Rider, David Lentz, who worked on Good Boy, and then And World Design.
Stacked lineup there, Pad.
Yeah,
stacked.
Next up is the Best Colorist category. The nominees for this category are Jean-Francois Bellou, who worked on Twig, Rico Renzi, who worked on Grimm, Kevin Nipstein, who worked on 8 Billion Genies, Adriano Lucas, who worked on Nightwing, Mattia Iacano, who worked on The Dead Lucky, and Francesco Francavilla, who worked on Night of the Ghoul.
Man, great roster right there. Absolutely great roster.
Then you have the Best Illustrator category, or the Best Artist/Illustrator category. And the nominees are Bruno Redondo, who worked on Nightwing, Corey Smith, who worked on Ghost Rider, Flaviano, who worked on Grimm, Roge Antonio, who worked on Carnage, Juan Ferreira, who worked on DN Spider-Man, French Carlomango, who worked on Dead Lucky, Abel, who worked on Rogue Sun, Daniel Warren Johnson, who worked on Do a Powerbomb, Francesco Francavilla, who worked on Night of the Ghoul, and then Dan Mora, who worked on World's Finest / Once and Future.
Man, this one is definitely not going to be an easy choice for anybody. I'm sorry. Like, this one is going to really, really be a tough one to call here, but fantastic artists involved. Fantastic.
Then we get to the Best Writer category, and this is probably the most stacked lineup I've ever seen in my life.
Bring it on.
So for this category, the nominees are Tom Taylor, Scott Snyder, Charles Soule, Ram V, Chip Zdarsky, James Tynion IV, Stephanie Phillips, Ryan Parrott, Melissa Flores, and Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah.
Good luck picking somebody out of that category.
And the write-ins have been coming in, too. Like, we've had some great ones, too. Because I know people are like, well, how come this person wasn't nominated? We've got 10 nominations for writers.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, we could have gone complete Oscars and gone 5, and then the write-ins would have been all over the place. This is really anybody's guess who's going to do it, but how much great writing is in comics right now?
Ton.
How much? And then the award of the year.
The Best Single Issue category, and the nominees are Freak Show Kingdom #1 from Second Sight Publishing, Bone Orchard, 10,000 Black Feathers, #3 from Image Comics, 8 Billion Genies, issue #1 from Image Comics, Dark Ride, issue #2 from Image Comics, Ghost Rider, issue #5 from Marvel Comics, Nightwing 2022 Annual from DC Comics, Radiant Black, issue #18 from Image Comics, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, issue #100 from Boom Studios, do a Powerbomb, issue number 7 from Image Comics, and then Fantastic Four Full Circle from Abrams Books / Marvel Comics.
That's all I can really say about that.
Uh-huh.
Like, that is one of the most stacked lineups for the awards this year. Like, I mean, all of them are stacked, but this one, there is no wrong answer here. This is, like, whatever you're voting for, this is definitely clicking, especially the write-ins, too. I know we've gotten a lot of votes in for Rogue Sun number 7. That was the Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Oh, okay.
That
That
came
makes
in
sense.
as well. So, like, if anybody's writing stuff in, write it in, too. Like I say, we're not dismaying anybody from writing in. These are just, like, Brian and I were hammering the nominees, the books we've talked to the most with fans about this year. So, Pat, reading that list, I mean, do you got one that you're feeling right now? I mean, obviously this could change.
I don't know. I got to spend some more time looking over them. I have no idea.
Fair enough. But this is why you can make the votes in and obviously get them into us by January 3rd. That is the cutoff date for this, for the 2022 Cheersies. Listen, this is going to be one of the best award shows you're going to hear, see, whatever is going to be the case. I know it's going to be on YouTube and Facebook, so you definitely want to chime in. Make your voice heard. Obviously, we'll be answering as many comments as we can because I'm sure we're going to get a lot in.
Yeah.
And just stay tuned for that because that's going to be a fun time. And listen, on behalf of everybody here at the ODPH and the Extended 607 Podcast family, Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for listening. For the one and only Padawan J.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. It has been a pleasure to do this for 5+ years now, and we're hoping to continue keep going strong into the new year and beyond. Thank you, as always, for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Fill out your ballots. All are in the liner notes, and we'll see you next year.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one